This is so much fun for us. Thank
Yeah, I'm
you.
glad. Yeah, no problem.
We're tickled to spend some time with you.
Yeah, I'm glad. Yeah, it's a fun opportunity, definitely.
It is. Tell us, where are you living right now?
Currently, right outside of Boston, Massachusetts. So about 20 miles north.
Is that home for you all?
No.
No, where's home?
No, my husband is originally from New York, and I am originally or grew up in Seattle.
So no.
No, not at all. We've lived here though, on and off, now for about 8 years. So, this has become a large part of our life, the Boston area, definitely.
So you're comfortable.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, that's always good. That's
Yeah,
always
I
good.
mean, you have to kind of make it what you want, right? So, I mean,
Oh goodness, do you ever?
Yeah,
Do you
yeah.
ever?
Yeah. So, Boston is a very special city. So, we've been able to use that to our advantage, definitely.
Yeah. Hey, so listen, I was reading some of your background. Tell us about the Coastie Voice.
Yeah. So the Cozy Voice is a blog that we're trying to have it be a resource center
Mhm.
for all of our Coast Guard community, spouses and families. So what's interesting about the Coast Guard community is that we are, how do I put it? We're not a typical military community in that we get stationed together, but we don't always live in the same areas. So we're very dispersed. So as like in the Air Force, you go on a base, you're right around the base, it's very, have commissaries and things like that. Coast Guard isn't necessarily like that. We may have an exchange or we may not, and that could be it, right? I'm lucky in the Boston area, we do have an Air Force base nearby, so I could go to a commissary or live on base, but we chose not to. But we are truly, how I put it's like half civilian, half military,
I
right?
get it.
So,
Sure.
we have a military lifestyle, but yet we're very ingrained in the civilian. So, what happens with that is when you begin to come out of the any kind of military community or base, you're not living together, those resources become very thin. And not that they're not there, it's just that it's harder to know because they're not in your face, right? You don't have groups as heavily as others do. So what myself and Stacy Benson, we really wanted to gather resources and put it in front of the Coast Guard community and the spouses and the family to let them know, hey, we have options. They just may not be within arm's reach. We might have to reach a little further and let us help gather those for you. And that's what the blog or the resource center is for.
Jen, it's so interesting. I think back to each and every one of the interviews that I've done over the past 2 days, and that's a common theme, that the resources really are there, but how do we find the resources?
Right.
Seems to be the biggest challenge, and it's there. You just got to find it.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard though because the Coast Guard isn't under DoD.
Mhm.
So we don't always get the same resources as the other branches do.
Sure.
So that's where it's kind of navigating or trying to help our fellow spouses understand what they can or can't get, and how it can pertain to them because they may not be on base with their peers all the time.
So it sounds like there's a tight network of spouses.
I think it depends on the city. I have a tight group because I've been with my husband for 10 years now, and we've moved a lot. So, and I have a lot of friends that have moved. So I've kept a close knit, even though we are far apart. And I'm like the mama bear. It's like, I get everyone with me and want to make sure that everyone has the resources that I have. So I have that. I don't think that all of the spouses do, and that's what I'm trying to help with the spouses and the families have the same opportunities that I can find.
One of the comments you made has been really stood out for me was to be kind to yourself, be easy on yourself.
Yeah.
Yeah, we really have to as military spouses.
We do. And I think it's interesting. I just in general, like it's not even just.
You're right.
For me, I've had kind of this aha moment when my husband was deployed last year that, I can't do it all. And I'm very, for my entire life, have been an overachiever. I've been a perfectionist, and I've realized I can't do that. It's not healthy. And I need to be okay with what's in front of me and be content, right, with what I have and be kind because it's not an easy life all of the time, right? So with as a mom and as a spouse with a lot of stress, and it's really nice to give yourself some slack that if you don't
It's
want to
interesting you say that. When we have four daughters, and I'll never forget one night my husband coming home from work and just looking around, and he had such great insight. He's like, Kelly, sometimes if I come home and the house is perfect, it means you really didn't have fun today. But if the house is kind of out of sorts and there's things going on, you guys really have fun.
Right. Yeah.
And he was so right.
Yeah.
And of course, there's a limit to that, but
that balance, right? That balance.
Right.
Yeah,
So
definitely.
that's great that you recognize that, to be kind to yourself, and it's okay if things aren't just so when it's all good.
Yeah, and I think too, I mean, for me, it starts in the home, but I took that and I became kind and comfortable with what I had and was able to step out a little bit further and take that into my other spouses, right? And if they're having a rough day, I then had the flexibility to go to them because if I wasn't nice to myself in general, I'm not going to be nice to others, right? So
You're right.
and I was focusing that way and trying to help the folks around me. I think that's the best thing that I can do as a fellow spouse
You're
is
right.
just to uplift those around me.
You're right. You are absolutely right about that. So if you turn back the clock,
Hmm.
what would you say to your newlywed self?
I would tell myself to keep being you. To not, I wouldn't change for myself. I wouldn't change anything that's happened. I live my life with no fear. So I'm the kind of person that I will jump into something full force, and I would tell myself to not stop that.
Right.
Because it's something for me in this lifestyle that if you don't allow yourself to be who you are, you lose a bit of that. I mean, marriage in general is you have to have, it's two pieces, right?
Yeah.
In the military, that person can go away, and if they're deployed, you have to be able to stand on your own and to jump into anything that you want to do 100%. So, I think I would tell myself to keep being who you are and don't be afraid to jump and don't be afraid to take the next step, and know that your spouse will be there. So my husband is my number one support. In anything crazy idea that I have, he looks at me like, all right, well, how are we going to do this? And I'll explain. He's like, okay, you can do it, so, and he's my number one cheerleader. So I don't think, I would know that I would tell myself to keep going in that
Keep
path
going.
and have that for you.
Keep going. That's great. I like that. So what's your favorite part about being military?
It's funny that we're different. It's a very weird thing to think
It's
about.
Pride.
Yeah,
right?
I mean,
Right?
definitely, but it's that I can be in two different worlds, right? I can put on my military hat and make a great group of friends and have a great environment, and then turn a little bit to the left and I put on a different hat and I can do something else. And it's not, our life is so dynamic,
It is.
and that we can make it a very positive life for that. I don't think I would change anything about it. So that's my favorite part. I think that we have, it's not like, because I'm in corporate America, it's not like my husband is too, right? So it's like I'm become more grounded. The fact that we have all of these onion slices that we can pull off in our life.
So you have lots of deployments under your belt, like so
Yeah.
many of us. Do you have any fun or just silly traditions with those little darlings of yours
Yeah,
when he's
so
gone?
my kiddos. So yeah, we do a couple different things. So for the first one that we always do is the night that they leave, my kids and I go do something fun. So just myself and them, like it could be as simple as like going to McDonald's or we rent a movie or something that we focus on, right?
Sure.
And then every week we draw pictures or we tell stories, and I will either scan them and keep them when I make a book or something. So, or I give them to my husband if he's able to come in, or I'll show him. So I'm able weekly to like keep my husband up to date and my kids documenting what they did. And then we do the daily kisses, like, those Hershey
Yes,
kisses.
yes.
Yeah, so I do a big jar, and, every day they get a kiss. So those are the big things. I mean, every day, it's always that, we talk about it, we acknowledge it, and we keep those traditions alive that, that he's around, right?
Right.
It's just in a different fashion.
That's so sweet. Good for you. And you're going to be shocked someday when they're grown that they'll remember those traditions.
Right? Yeah.
Yes, mine are clearly, they're much older now and grown up, and they still laugh about if we were having a bad day around the house, which happens.
Yeah.
We would have pie for dinner.
Sounds great.
And it took away all our troubles for the day, and everybody was happy, but we only did it when he was deployed.
Right. Right. Well, that's the best kind.
Yes, but I had to remind them that when we walked into Marie Callender's to buy the pie, if he was with us, act like we had never seen these people before.
Right. It's never happened.
No, I don't know who these people
Yeah,
are.
we do a lot of breakfast for dinner.
Yes.
We love breakfast. It's our family. It's just like our thing. So if I'm having a rough day, pancakes usually come out, right? That's just my own thing because it's like easy to whip up, but I totally agree with you on that one.
So since you're somewhat in a unique situation, being the service that you and your husband are in, when you go home to your civilian friends, how do you explain your lifestyle to them?
Oh man, it's so fun.
Yeah.
It's a constant. The initial question they always ask is he home?
Right.
Because in the Coast Guard, depending on the position that you're in or where you're stationed, you may be home all the time. Mm-hmm. You may be gone just for the day, or you could be gone for 2 to 3 months, right? It all depends, like weeks. And so the schedule he's on a cutter is much different than others. So that I have to kind of explain, oh yeah, we're home or we're not home, right? So I think that's the initial question. But outside of that, it's his job. So we treat it very much like everyone else. Like this is what he does during the day. It's ingrained in what we do. And then we treat it as such. So it's kind of a weird thing to say a little bit, but we don't glorify it because it is something that, like with my kids, I want them to understand that it's incredibly important.
Yes.
And that we're sacrificing a lot, but at the same point that it's what he does, and it's not everything, right? So I try and explain that to some of my civilian friends, like, yeah, this is his job, and he's gone half of the year, but then he'll come home, and then he'll be the same. I'll just let you know when he comes home.
Yeah.
But
isn't it such a treat when they get to go home with you?
Yeah. Yeah. It's a very weird, like, oh, I get to go get him, I think, today. Like,
It is.
Yeah, definitely.
It is. Well, listen, we do not want to take up all of your time, but know how much we appreciate you. And I've made a point to thank each of the spouses personally for your service. I know when I was, when my husband was active duty, I kind of look at people, give him the skunk eye, like, what are you thanking me for? I'm just along for the ride.
Right,
And it wasn't until years later that I realized, wow, the spouses really are part of this picture. So thank you.
No
Even
problem.
if you don't get it today, you'll get it later on, I promise.
Yeah, no, I do. I think for me it's a bit different because I have worked full time and I've had to make a large sacrifice in my career for
Sure.
that. So I definitely, I see it, right? I see it.
Good, good.
But yeah, no, I really do appreciate it.
Well, we appreciate you likewise. And thanks again. And I hope we can meet you in person.
Yeah,
We'll
definitely.
see what happens. We're trying to make it to the event.
Oh, okay. I will be there.
Yes, you will. And we hope to meet you. So
Awesome.
thank you.
No problem. Thank you. Have a
Cheers.
good
Happy
day.
St. Patty's Day.